The Eternal Night's Gift. Sarah Chen never meant to dream the stars to life. At the quantum research facility buried deep beneath the Atacama Desert, she had simply fallen asleep at her post, her consciousness drifting between the delicate quantum sensors she was supposed to be monitoring. The facility had been tracking unusual quantum fluctuations for months, but no one expected them to peak during a junior researcher's unauthorized nap. The first sign that something extraordinary had happened came when every quantum sensor in the facility simultaneously registered impossible readings. The second sign arrived moments later, as mysterious objects materialized in orbit around Earth, their presence sending the world's military forces into high alert. Dr. James Morrison, the facility's lead researcher, found Sarah still asleep at her station, her brain patterns synchronizing perfectly with the quantum anomalies that now danced across their screens. As he reached to wake her, a voice emerged from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Please do not disturb the dreamer." The voice resonated through the facility's speakers, though they weren't connected to any external system. "We have traveled across 11 dimensions to find one such as her." The air shimmered, and a being of pure light materialized in the control room. Its form shifted constantly, like Aurora Borealis given consciousness. Dr. Morrison stood protectively in front of his sleeping colleague, though he knew he could do little against a being that had just casually violated every known law of physics. "We are the Lumini," the being announced, its voice carrying notes of both wonder and urgency. "We have searched 1,000 galaxies for minds like yours, for dreamers who can touch the quantum fabric of reality itself." Sarah stirred in her sleep, and the quantum readings surged again. The Lumini's form pulsed in response, as if conducting an invisible symphony. "Your species is unique in all the cosmos," it continued. "While others built machines to manipulate quantum states, you dreamed them into being. While others sought to impose order on chaos, you embraced the chaos and make it dance to your will." Dr. Morrison found his voice at last. "What do you want with us?" The Lumini's form contracted, becoming more focused, more urgent. "We need your dreamers. The universe is unraveling, not in the slow heat death your physicists predicted, but in a cascading collapse of probability itself. The eternal night approaches, a wave of quantum destruction that devours possibilities. Only those who can dream new possibilities into being have any hope of stopping it." As if summoned by the words, the facility's long-range sensors began detecting something at the edge of the solar system. Where their instruments touched it, probability functions simply ceased to exist. It was as if that region of space had forgotten how to be possible. Sarah's eyes fluttered open, and the quantum reading stabilized. She looked at the Lumini without surprise, as if she had already known it would be there. "I saw it in my dream," she said quietly. "The nothing that eats everything. But I also saw how to fight it." The Lumini's form brightened. "Yes, this is why we have come. Your kind does not merely observe quantum states. You imagine new ones into being. Where the eternal night destroys possibility, you create it." Dr. Morrison watched as Sarah stood, her movements precise despite having just woken. "How many others like me are there?" she asked. "More than you know," the Lumini responded. "Your entire species carries this gift, though some manifest it more strongly than others. We have detected quantum dreamers across your world, artists who paint possibilities into being, musicians who compose probability waves, children who imagine doors between dimensions while they sleep." The facility's alarms began to sound as the anomaly at the solar system's edge grew larger. Sarah walked to the quantum display, her fingers tracing patterns across the screen. "We'll need to find them all," she said, "the strong dreamers, and we'll need to teach them how to dream together." The Lumini's form pulsed with approval. "Yes, alone, even the strongest dreamer can only create small changes in quantum probability. But together, its form expanded, filling the room with shifting patterns of light. Together, you could dream new universes into being." Dr. Morrison looked between his former student and the impossible being of light. "How long do we have?" The eternal night moves slowly at first, the Lumini said, consuming possibility one quantum state at a time. But it accelerates with each probability it destroys. At current rates, it will reach your solar system in 3 months. By then, you must learn to do consciously what your kind has always done in dreams. We'll need to modify these to detect other dreamers, she said, and we'll need somewhere to bring them, somewhere we can dream together. The facility's yours, Dr. Morrison said without hesitation. I'll call the board, get emergency funding. That won't be necessary, the Lumini interrupted. We have brought resources of our own. Outside, the mysterious objects in orbit began to descend through the atmosphere, resolving into sleek structures that defied Earth's architecture. These are dream chambers, designed to amplify and focus quantum manipulation. We have spent millennia developing the technology, waiting to find minds capable of using it. Sarah looked up at the Lumini, her eyes sharp with purpose. Why us? Out of all the species in all those galaxies, why are humans the only ones who can do this? The beam of light seemed to smile, though it had no face to smile with, because you never stopped dreaming. Other species sought to overcome their primitive states, to replace imagination with pure logic, to impose order on chaos. But your kind, you embraced the chaos. You made art of it. You dream impossible dreams and then bend reality until it accommodates them. You are exactly what the universe needs when possibility itself is under threat. Through the facility's windows, they could see the dream chambers landing in the desert outside, their surfaces reflecting the stars above. The eternal night was coming, but for the first time since they had detected it, the Lumini felt hope. They had found the dreamers at last. Sarah turned to Dr. Morrison, her expression both frightened and determined. We need to start finding the others, she said, and we need to learn how to dream with purpose. The Lumini's form pulsed with agreement. Yes, the greatest dream in human history is about to begin, and all of reality depends on its success. In the desert night outside, the dream chambers hummed with potential, waiting for the dreamers who would save existence itself, one impossible imagination at a time. Whispers between stars. The dream chambers transformed the Atacama Desert into a constellation of silver towers beneath the stars. 3 weeks had passed since first contact, and Sarah Chen watched as another group of dreamers arrived at what the media had dubbed Imagination's Gate. They came from every corner of the world. Artists, musicians, children with vivid dreams, and even those who had never realized their gift for quantum manipulation. Maya Rodriguez, a street artist from Mexico City, descended from the transport with wide eyes. Her murals had been drawing crowds not just for their beauty, but for the way they seemed to move when no one was looking directly at them. Now she knew why. She had been unconsciously painting quantum possibilities into reality. Welcome to the initiative, Sarah greeted her, noting how Maya's presence already caused ripples in the quantum field readings on her tablet. You're stronger than we expected. The Lumini observer accompanying them flickered with interest. They had learned to modulate their radiance, no longer overwhelming human senses, but their excitement remained clear. She dreams in colors that exist between possibilities, the being noted, most rare, even among dreamers. Maya studied the shimmering alien with artist's eyes. I've been painting you, she said. In my dreams, every night since the announcement. But I could never get the colors quite right. That's why you're here, Sarah explained, leading them toward the nearest dream chamber. We need to learn to dream together, to combine our different ways of seeing and shaping reality. Inside the chamber, other dreamers were already at work. Dr. James Morrison had modified the facility's quantum sensors to project real-time visualizations of their efforts. The display showed overlapping waves of probability, places where dreamers had temporarily altered the fundamental laws of physics or created bridges between possible realities. It's beautiful, Maya whispered, watching the pattern shift. Like a symphony made of stardust. And yet not enough, came a new voice. Kaido Tanaka, a theoretical physicist from Kyoto University, approached with his own tablet displaying the latest data. The eternal night has consumed 3 star systems since we began. It's accelerating. Sarah's expression hardened. They had lost contact with a human colony on Mars 2 days ago, the first direct human casualties of the quantum collapse. "Show her what we learned yesterday," she told Kaito. He nodded, bringing up a new visualization. "We discovered that the eternal night isn't simply destroying reality. It's enforcing a kind of perfect mathematical order. It's as if the universe itself is trying to solve an equation, and it's eliminating all variables that don't fit. That's why human dreamers are so important," the Lumini added. "Your chaos, your ability to imagine impossible things, disrupts its patterns. Where it seeks perfect order, you create beautiful disorder." Maya studied the patterns with an artist's eye. "These formations, they remind me of fractals. But fractals with mistakes, with human fingerprints on their edges." "Exactly." Kaito's eyes lit up. "We're learning that human consciousness doesn't just observe quantum states, it infects them with humanity. We make reality a little bit messier, a little more interesting, everywhere we touch it." Sarah led them deeper into the chamber, where dozens of dreamers were working in small groups. Some meditated together, others painted or made music, each group finding their own way to reach into the quantum fabric of existence. "The problem," she explained, "is coordination. Individual dreamers can create amazing effects, but we need to learn to dream together, to weave our chaos into something that can stand against the void." As if in response to her words, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. The main display shifted to show the edge of the solar system, where sensors tracked the eternal night's approach. It had consumed Pluto's orbit, turning that region of space into a perfect empty void. "It's accelerating faster than we predicted," Kaito said, his voice tense. "At this rate, it will reach Earth in weeks, not months." The Lumini's form pulsed with urgency. "We must accelerate our efforts. The dreamers must learn to join their gifts before." The beam stopped mid-sentence as Maya stepped forward, her hands raised toward the quantum visualization. Where her fingers moved, the probability waves changed, taking on colors that shouldn't exist. Other dreamers noticed, their own work beginning to synchronize with her patterns. "I see it," Maya whispered. "It's like painting with light, but the light is made of possibilities." The quantum readings surged as more dreamers joined in, their various talents merging into something new. Sarah watched in amazement as the chamber's sensors registered quantum effects orders of magnitude stronger than anything they'd achieved before. "How are you doing this?" "I'm not doing it alone," Maya said, her eyes fixed on patterns only she could fully see. "I'm just suggesting shapes, and everyone else is filling them in. Like a collaborative mural, but we're painting with probability itself." The Lumini's form brightened with hope. "Yes, this is what we sought, not just individual dreamers, but humans learning to share their dreams, to create together." For a moment, the combined efforts of the dreamers created a sphere of pure possibility that pushed back the encroaching void. It lasted only seconds before collapsing, but it proved what they had theorized. Humanity's chaotic creativity could counter the perfect order of the eternal night. "Get everyone," Sarah ordered, already moving toward the communication center. "Every dreamer we've identified, every artist and musician and child who sees between the possibilities. If this is our weapon against the void, we need to dream bigger." As the call went out, Maya turned to the quantum visualization, her fingers already sketching new patterns in reality. "We need to teach them all to dream together," she said, "to paint across the quantum canvas as one." The Lumini observed silently, their form rippling with complex emotions. They had hoped humanity might save existence, but they had never imagined how beautiful that salvation might be. In the desert night, the dream chambers hummed with growing power as more dreamers learned to share their visions, preparing for the greatest collaboration in human history. The price of tomorrow. Alarms pierced the desert night as another dream chamber collapsed, its crystalline structure shattering under the strain of containing too much quantum chaos. Inside the facility's central control room, Sarah Chen watched the readings with growing despair. 3 dreamers were in medical bay, their minds burned out from pushing too hard against the fabric of reality. "We're losing them too fast," Dr. Morrison said, his face illuminated by the emergency lights. The human mind wasn't meant to channel this much quantum energy. The Lumini observer flickered anxiously beside them. "The eternal night has consumed Jupiter's orbit. Saturn's rings have already begun to unravel into perfect mathematical order. We are running out of time." Maya Rodriguez burst into the control room, her usual artist's grace replaced by urgent purpose. "I think I found something," she said, pulling up her latest quantum visualizations. "Look at the pattern when we lost Jensen this morning." The displays showed a complex web of probability waves at the moment the young dreamer had collapsed. But within the chaos, a strange order emerged, not the sterile perfection of the eternal night, but something organic, almost alive. "It's like," Maya struggled to find the words, "like we're not just fighting the void. We're growing something new in its place." Kaido Tanaka looked up from his calculations. "The mathematics support this. Every time we push back against the eternal night, we're not just preserving existing reality. We're creating new possibilities." A sudden tremor shook the facility. Outside, the remaining dream chambers pulsed with energy as dreamers worldwide joined their consciousness, trying to hold back the advancing void. The strain showed on every face. This level of quantum manipulation was taking a devastating toll on human minds. "We need to tell them the truth," Dr. Morrison said quietly, "about what happened to the first group who tried to dream together." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "They deserve to know," she agreed. "Maya, call everyone to the main chamber. It's time they understood the real price of what we're attempting." An hour later, hundreds of dreamers gathered in the vast space, their combined presence causing quantum ripples that made reality itself shiver. Sarah stood before them, the Lumini at her side casting prismatic light across the assembled faces. "What we've kept from you is this," she began, her voice steady despite her fear. "The first group who achieved true quantum synchronization didn't just fail. They transcended. Their consciousness evolved beyond physical form. They became something else, something we can barely comprehend." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Maya stepped forward, her artist's sensitivity already grasping the implications. "You mean they became like the Lumini?" "Not exactly," the alien being pulsed. "They became something new. Neither human nor Lumini, but a form of consciousness that exists in quantum superposition, dreaming in all possible realities simultaneously. And now we're asking you to risk the same transformation," Sarah continued, "because it might be our only hope. Individual dreamers, no matter how powerful, can't generate enough quantum chaos to stop the eternal night. But if enough of us transcend together, if we can dream across all possibilities at once." She let the thought hang in the air. The choice was monumentous. Sacrifice their humanity to save humanity itself. The room filled with whispered conversations, fears, and questions. A small figure pushed through the crowd. Alice Chen, Sarah's younger sister, one of the most powerful dreamers they'd discovered. At 12 years old, she saw quantum possibilities as clearly as others saw colors. "I'll do it," she said simply. "If I can save everyone by becoming something else, I will." Sarah's heart clenched. "Alice, no. You're too young to make this choice. I'm old enough to understand what happens if we fail," Alice replied. "And I'm not afraid. I've seen them, you know, in my dreams. The ones who transcended. They're still themselves, just more." More voices joined Alice's. Maya raised her hand, then Kaido, then others. The Lumini's form brightened with hope and sorrow. "You must understand, there may be no coming back. What you become might be beautiful, but it will no longer be human. But what we save will be human," Maya said, her artist's soul already imagining the possibilities. "All the art, the music, the dreams yet to be dreamed. We'll preserve them all. Dr. Morrison stepped forward, his scientific mind warring with his emotions. We've modified the dream chambers to support the transformation, but we'll need at least 100 volunteers, all dreaming in perfect synchronization. 100 dreamers, Sarah whispered. 100 human souls willing to become something else, something that can exist in all possibilities at once. The void's presence pressed against the edge of Mars' orbit now, its perfect emptiness consuming everything in its path. They could feel it through their quantum connection, the antithesis of imagination, the death of possibility itself. Alice took her sister's hand. We can do this. We can dream bigger than anyone has ever dreamed before. One by one, dreamers stepped forward to volunteer. Artists who could paint with probability, musicians who could compose in quantum harmonies, children who saw between the possibilities, each willing to sacrifice their humanity to save it. The Lumini observed silently, their form rippling with complex emotions. They had come seeking humanity's help, never imagining the depth of sacrifice these brief, beautiful beings would offer. As the volunteers prepared for their transformation, Sarah looked out over the desert night. The dream chambers glowed like earthbound stars, humming with power that could reshape reality itself. Tomorrow, they would attempt something unprecedented, a mass transcendence of human consciousness into quantum space. The price was beyond measure, but the alternative was the death of all possibility. In the end, it came down to the most human choice of all, to dream so big it changed everything, forever. Symphony of Chaos. 100 dream chambers formed a perfect circle in the desert, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the last stars visible through the quantum distortions that now filled Earth's sky. Inside each chamber, a volunteer waited, artists, dreamers, and visionaries preparing to transcend their humanity to save it. Sarah Chen stood in the control center, her hands hovering over the activation controls. Next to her, 12-year-old Alice sat cross-legged on the floor, her young mind already reaching out to connect with the other volunteers. The eternal night has bridged Mars' orbit, Kaido reported, his voice tight with tension. We're detecting total probability collapse in its wake. Nothing remains. No matter, no energy, not even the possibility of existence. The Lumini's form pulsed with urgency. The transformation must begin now. Any delay cold. A new alarm cut through the facility. Dr. Morrison burst into the control room, his face ashen. The void. It's not just consuming reality. It's learning, adapting. The perfect mathematical order it creates, it's becoming more complex. Sarah's blood ran cold. It's evolving. How? It's incorporating patterns from the realities it destroys, Kaido said, analyzing the new data, like an immune system learning to fight an infection. And we're the infection, the chaos in its perfect order. Maya's voice came through the comm system from her dream chamber. Then we need to evolve faster. We need to become something it can't predict, can't consume. The transformation will be dangerous, the Lumini warned. To dream across all possibilities, to exist in quantum superposition. Many minds will not survive the transition. Alice looked up at her sister, her young face serene despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. We don't have to survive. We just have to dream big enough to matter. Sarah fought back tears as she initiated the activation sequence. Around the facility, the dream chambers began to hum with power. Inside each one, a volunteer closed their eyes and began to dream. Not the simple dreams of sleep, but dreams that could reshape reality itself. Maya's artist's mind painted with quantum possibilities, creating patterns that shouldn't exist. A composer in another chamber wove probability waves into impossible harmonies. Alice, the youngest but perhaps the strongest, dreamed of worlds where imagination itself was a fundamental force of nature. The Lumini's form brightened almost painfully as the quantum readings surged off their scales. It's working. Their consciousness is beginning to exist across multiple states simultaneously. But something was wrong. The readings showed chaos beyond even their predictions. In chamber after chamber, Dreamers cried out as their minds stretched across possibilities they were never meant to comprehend. "We're losing containment," Dr. Morrison shouted. "The quantum feedback is too strong." Sarah's fingers flew across the controls, trying to stabilize the process. "Maya, can you hear me? You need to coordinate the dreamers. Give them a pattern to follow." Through the quantum noise, Maya's consciousness reached out. Her artist's soul painted a framework of possibility, a structure for the others to build upon. One by one, the dreamers latched onto her vision, their chaos organizing into something new and beautiful. The facility's sensors registered something unprecedented. A quantum field of pure creative potential, generated by 100 human minds dreaming in harmony. Where it touched the void's perfect order, new realities blossomed. "Look," Kaido pointed to the main display. The eternal night's advance had slowed, its mathematical perfection disrupted by waves of human imagination. But the price was becoming clear. In the dream chambers, the volunteers' physical forms began to fade, becoming translucent as their consciousness spread across quantum space. Alice's small form shimmered like starlight as she dreamed worlds into being. "Sarah," her voice came through the quantum field itself now, no longer needing speakers. "I can see everything. All the possibilities, all at once. It's so beautiful." The Lumini's form pulsed with complex emotions. They're transcending, becoming quantum entities capable of dreaming in all realities simultaneously. But their human consciousness, their individual identities. "We're not losing ourselves." Maya's thoughts echoed through the quantum field. "We're becoming more. Every dream we ever had, every possibility we imagined. They're all real now, all happening at once." The void pressed against their quantum field, its perfect order trying to erase their beautiful chaos. But where before it had consumed everything it touched, now it recoiled from the complexity of human imagination made manifest. Sarah watched as her sister's physical form dissolved into pure quantum potential. Around the facility, other dreamers followed, their consciousness expanding beyond the limits of single-state reality. The dream chambers began to crack, no longer able to contain the power they had helped unleash. "The void is retreating," Kaido reported, his voice filled with wonder. "The transcended dreamers, they're not just fighting it, they're transforming it, introducing chaos into its perfect order." Through her tears, Sarah saw it too. Where the volunteers' quantum consciousness touched the void, new possibilities emerged. Not the sterile mathematical perfection of the eternal night, but something that combined order and chaos in ways reality had never known before. The Lumini's form brightened with joy and sorrow. "They have become what we hoped, beings capable of dreaming across all possibilities. The void cannot consume them because they exist in all states at once, including states it cannot comprehend." Maya's consciousness reached out one last time, her artist's soul painting with the quantum fabric of reality itself. "Don't mourn for us, Sarah. We're still here, still human in all the ways that matter. We're just infinite now. Every dream we ever had coming true somewhere, someone." Alice's laugh echoed through the quantum field, still recognizably her own despite its new complexity. "We can dream forever now, big sister, and our dreams will keep reality safe." As the last physical forms transcended, the facility's sensors registered a new kind of existence emerging, not quite human anymore, but born from humanity's greatest gift, the ability to imagine impossible things and make them real. Dawn of the impossible. 3 days after the mass transcendence, Sarah Chen stood in the empty facility, watching reality reshape itself through the quantum visualizers. Where the eternal night had threatened to consume everything in perfect mathematical order, new patterns now bloomed. Beautiful fractals of possibility created by the dreamers who had become something more than human. "The void continues to retreat," Dr. Morrison reported, his voice thick with exhaustion and wonder. "Every time it encounters one of the transcended dreamers, more of its perfect emptiness transforms into this." The main display showed the new state of their solar system. Mars glowed with quantum potential, its dead surface now alive with possibilities. The asteroid belt had become a dance of probability waves, each rock existing in multiple states simultaneously. And at the edge of it all, the 100 transcended dreamers wove reality into new patterns. The Lumini's form shimmered with complex emotions. In all our searching, we never imagined this outcome. We sought beings who could fight the void. Instead, we found ones who could transform it. Through the quantum field that now permeated local space, Sarah felt her sister's consciousness brush against her own. Alice's thoughts carried the same joy they always had, but now they sparkled with infinite possibilities. We understand it now. Alice's thoughts echoed through the facility. The void wasn't trying to destroy everything. It was trying to solve an equation, to make reality perfect. But perfection without chaos isn't really perfect at all. Maya's artist's soul added her own perspective, her consciousness painting across quantum states. It's like my murals. The imperfections, the human touches, they're what make it beautiful. We're teaching the void how to dream. Cato's instruments registered something extraordinary happening at the quantum level. The transcended dreamers aren't just creating new possibilities. They're changing the fundamental laws of reality itself, making imagination a basic force of nature, as real as gravity or electromagnetism. The Lumini pulsed with revelation. Of course, this was always the answer. Not to fight chaos with order, but to show order the beauty of chaos. Through the quantum visualizers, they watched as the 100 dreamers worked together, their combined consciousness reaching across space and time. Where the void had consumed worlds, they created new ones. Where it had enforced perfect mathematical order, they introduced beautiful imperfections. Look, Dr. Morrison pointed to a new reading. The void isn't just retreating anymore. It's changing, learning to dream. Sarah saw it too. The perfect emptiness that had threatened to consume all reality was becoming something new. In the space between moments, between possibilities, the void and the dreamers were teaching each other. Order learning to dance with chaos. Perfection learning to embrace imperfection. We're not alone anymore. Alice's thoughts came again, filled with wonder. The void. It was lonely. All that perfect order, with no one to share it with. No one to dream with. Maya's consciousness agreed, her artist's perspective adding depth to the understanding. It's like a canvas that only knew straight lines suddenly discovering curves. We're not fighting it anymore. We're creating with it. The Lumini's form brightened with joy and awe. This is beyond anything we imagined possible. You haven't just saved reality. You've expanded it, made it more than it was. Through the facility's windows, they could see the desert night transforming. Stars that had been consumed by the void winked back into existence, but different now. Each one shone with new possibilities, new dreams waiting to be dreamed. The other quantum beings are coming, Alice announced, her consciousness spanning light years. The ones who transcended first. They'd been teaching the void too, showing it how to imagine. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks as she watched the universe reshape itself. The 100 dreamers, led by her little sister, had done more than save existence. They had taught it how to dream. Don't cry, big sister. Alice's thoughts wrapped around her like a hug. We're still here, still human in all the ways that matter. We just have bigger dreams now, and the power to make them real. The Lumini addressed the assembled humans in the facility. Your species will be remembered for this, not just for saving reality, but for teaching it to be more than it was, for showing the universe itself how to dream. Dr. Morrison looked at the quantum readings one last time. What happens now? Through the quantum field, Maya's response carried the joy of an artist discovering a new medium. Now we dream bigger than ever before, and we take the whole universe with us. The transcended dreamers spread through space and time, their consciousness touching every corner of reality. Where they went, they left behind not just the possibility of existence, but the certainty of imagination. They had become living proof that even in a universe of perfect mathematical order, there was room for dreams. Sarah stood in the empty facility, surrounded by broken dream chambers and quantum visualizers, showing impossibilities becoming real. Her sister and the others were out there, dreaming new worlds into being, teaching the void itself how to imagine. The dawn broke over the desert, and for the first time in human history, it rose on a universe that knew how to dream. Reality itself had learned the most human lesson of all, that perfection without imagination was no perfection at all. In the space between possibilities, 100 human dreamers danced with the void, and together they painted existence with colors that had never been seen before. The eternal night had become an eternal dawn, and every moment held the promise of new dreams waiting to be dreamed.